Hi guys, today we're going to be talking about payroll process for UK-based business owners, and this is really important, especially if you are a business owner who one is intending to actually hire staff to work for you within your business, or indeed you already have staff working for you in your business. Now, a lot of the things that happen as part of payroll will usually take place on a monthly basis or whatever frequency of time it is that you tend to pay your employees on. So some business owners might pay their employees on a fortnightly basis, and some business owners might choose to pay certain employees on a monthly basis. Irrespective, there are certain tasks that will need to be carried out every time you are running your payroll process. Now, the payroll process for many business owners can be very, very complex, and this is because this is a complicated topic on its own generally, and a lot of that really has to do with the compliance and legislation around payroll as it operates here in the UK. So we're going to be diving a little bit into this topic today, so do make sure you watch the video till the end so that you can have a better idea as to what exactly you need to do as part of actually handling payroll for your employees. Now, before we dive in, I think it's important for me to actually clarify just how important the compliance aspect of payroll is for someone who is running a business here in the UK and who employs staff, okay? So this compliance aspect basically means that you as a business owner, okay, you are legally responsible for ensuring that your payroll tasks and everything to do with PAYE is completed, okay, on time, and the information is accurate, because failure to actually keep and maintain accurate records consistently can actually lead to you as a business owner incurring penalties, fines, and really getting in trouble with authorities such as the HMRC. So this is a very important aspect that you will need to understand, just so that you understand how important your payroll process actually is. Now, to start with, the payroll process basically covers how an employer would usually tend to pay their staff, okay, or their employees. And the entire process of payroll is basically to do with how you'd go about handling the payment of your employees' wages, as well as the relevant taxes that are meant to be paid. Now, once you've decided to hire your first employee, the first thing you want to do is to actually make sure that you check your budget. You want to check your budget because it's going to be very important that you have a fixed amount of budget, or a certain amount of money in your budget anyway, that can allow you employ comfortably full-time staff, a part-time staff, or a contractual staff, depending on which one your budget is going to allow. A key part of what you want to consider when looking at your budget and trying to decide what type of staff you want to hire, you definitely want to consider what we refer to as the national minimum wage, okay? And this is definitely one of the compliance aspects that I referred to earlier on that you will want to make sure that you are keeping on top of, okay? You do not want to be hiring staff that you are not paying at the very minimum the national minimum wage to. Next thing you're going to want to do is to register as an employer with HMRC and also submit your payroll information. Now, you will need to register as an employer with HMRC even if it is only one employee that you're hiring, or if there's only one director that is actually on the payroll of your company. So it's going to be very important that you don't miss this step. Another thing to bear in mind doing this is that you have to make sure that you do this step before you actually make the first payment to that particular employee, i.e. before the first pay date. Okay, and usually it takes roughly 15 working days, 10 to 15 working days for the process to be complete. So it is important that you bear this in mind when thinking about when you want to submit that payroll information over to HMRC. Now, once your business has been registered, you will usually get what is called a unique reference, okay, a unique PAYE reference. And what you must now do as an employer is to make sure that every time you make payment to your employees, the relevant amount of tax as well as any other contributions are collected and paid over to HMRC. So this is going to be very important that you are aware of what your responsibilities are as part of the payroll process. Now, a key aspect of the payroll process, particularly as an employer, is to make sure that you are calculating the correct amount of national insurance contributions and taking that from your employees' wages and paying it over to HMRC, okay? Not to forget, you also have your employers and national insurance contributions as well, of course. In some instances, you may also have to make additional contributions, such as the statutory maternity pay and also the statutory sick pay. So it's going to be important that you are aware of what contributions you need to make, how much you need to make, and also in what circumstances they might apply. Now, what about tax deductions? Now, when you're calculating the tax that's going to be due for each of your employees, you are going to want to take into consideration what the gross pay is, as well as the relevant personal allowance for that particular employee, as well as any other tax-free allowances that might be relevant for that employee. It's also going to be crucial that you are using the right tax code. So the tax code will really differ depending on what your particular employee's situation is. So this is going to be something that you will need to make sure is correct. Now, when it comes to fulfilling your duties as an employer to your employees, as an employer, you are obligated to provide specific reports, okay, to your employees. Some of this might be things like your pay slips and also things like P60s and P45s. So it's going to be important that you keep on top of any change in legislation so that you are making sure that you are preparing the reports in the right way and that they are all accurate. Let's talk about some of the common payroll mistakes that you definitely want to make sure that you are aware of so that you can avoid them. The first one is going to be miscalculating pay. Now, this can happen when you either overpay or underpay your employees. This can be because maybe you use the wrong tax code, for instance, and this can be very frustrating, not just to the employer, but also to the employee, because it means that you then have to take extra steps to actually correct that particular mistake, and that is usually done maybe by the next pay date or something. So it's important that you are actually making sure that you're using the right tax code in the first place and you're calculating the appropriate amount of benefits and deductions that need to be paid over either to HMRC or to your employee. And the next payroll mistake that you want to avoid is to ensure that you are keeping on top of any relevant overtime hours, okay? And generally the amount of working hours that are being logged in your company's payroll system, because incorrect hours that have been logged, particularly when it comes to overtime hours, can again lead to you paying out the wrong amount of money to your employees, which then means that you have to do, the whole refund process. And of course, it takes a lot of time. So this is something that you definitely want to avoid if you are in a situation where you have employees who regularly work overtime. You want to make sure that this is being tracked correctly and accurately. Now that leads me on to the next mistake that you might possibly be making, which is incomplete or incorrect reporting. Now, obviously your payroll process has to do with so much more than simply reporting wages and taking out the necessary amount of taxes and contributions. You also have to make sure that you are recording other appropriate items, such as any loans that you've given to your employees, if there has been company cars, for instance, and any other benefits that you may not have factored into it has to also be recorded and reported. Now, as you can see, the payroll process can be quite complicated and complex, particularly if you're a new business owner. And I think that if you're someone who is looking to start out in business, or you're just looking to hire your very first employee, there are several options that you might want to consider here. And the first one is that you could look to simply buying and installing a payroll software and obviously making sure that you have the relevant guidance as to filling it out correctly and making the relevant contributions on time over to HMRC. Your other option is going to be to speak with an accountant who can actually help you get your payroll process up to speed and make sure that your payroll process for the company is actually working as it should on a monthly basis, or whatever the frequency of payment is that your business operates. So thank you so much for watching this video, and if you haven't already done so, please do make sure you take a minute to like this video. Make sure to share it with a business owner who might benefit, and I will see you in the next video.